Hello, friends. I'm Sharon from Natural Awakenings magazine, and today I am joined by Dr. Julie Monica, functional nutritionist here in Monmouth and Ocean County, and author of Holiday Eating, a More Thoughtful Approach in the November issue of Natural Awakenings. And thank you so much for joining me today, Dr. Julie.
Great to be here, Sharon.
It's great to have you. So today we're going to talk about immunity, and our immune system is our best defense against COVID, which we're all dealing with right now. So if you could explain to us what exactly is functional nutrition, and then how do we put that to work to superpower our immune system?
So, okay, two big questions. Functional nutrition. That means I approach nutrition from a functional standpoint, which means that it's more science-based. Yes, people come in that maybe have issues, certainly want to lose weight because that's a lot more about metabolic numbers, more about your health, obviously. It's more than the skinny jeans, of course. So when people come in to me, a lot of times, and I don't want to make this all about weight loss because it's so much more. They come in with different types of especially chronic issues. What does that mean? What's a chronic issue? Well, you're talking about hypertension. We're talking about hyperlipidemia. We're talking about DM2s, diabetes mellitus type 2. We're talking about even psoriasis, skin conditions that just go on and on for years, gastrointestinal issues, autoimmune issues. So I've really been surprised myself of the array of cases and the type of patients that have walked into my office. And typically, I must say, it seems to be typical now after many years of doing this, is that there is no typical. I get a lot of cases that don't do well with perhaps meds, or because what's happening is, and this is a big nutritional foundation, people don't stop what it is that is the culprit. They continue to, for instance, I had a wonderful gentleman in here, kept painting, and the fumes and being around that every day, he was covered, his skin was covered in a dermatitis type situation. And it really came down to the toxicity in bad food. He worked a lot of hours. He was a painter forever. So that's just one of the, oddities that we see. A functional nutritionist, those are the types of things we see. And the way we work is that we take into account by science-based testing. Blood work is the fulcrum. We do stool testing as a real cardinal mark of what we do, as well as urine testing. And a lot of times we'll do sputum testing. What we test for is from soup to nuts, as they say, no pun intended. But we do test for different things. Somebody might get tested for their optimal amount of vitamins. Are they taking the optimal amount? Those are often my athletes or my optimal patients. But somebody might get a stool test because unfortunately, their gastrointestinal system is really so bad. It's plaguing them to a point where actually some of my patients are on disability. It's a tough go. So we would do different testing, really, so numerous to mention. So we do long appointments. We need to talk to the patients. We need to embrace what's going on. We need to really go through their ADLs, activities of daily living, because it really is about what they're doing each day, what they're putting in their mouth, or what they're doing, activities of daily living. Like our painter friend, our patient was going to work every day in this fume, and he would tell me, I have to keep the windows closed. And I was like, why? And that made, of course, everything worse. So I mentioned that as an odd kind of thing. So let's do one more kind of example. Asthmatics. So many asthmatics now, like eosinophilic asthmatics, and a lot of people are going to understand that term or that diagnosis, comes from a rise in an immune response. But the immune response is in relation to a food. And they're being treated, and they may get meds that really keep them under control. But if you don't stop the culprit, then that's going to just go on and more meds. So it makes so much sense to just take away the culprit and be healthier. So functional nutrition, finding out what the function is. And I gave you some examples there. But again, the array of testing that we do is vast.
So not to interrupt you, but so for anyone who is experiencing the type of problems that you were talking about, and want to get off of the litany of medications with the side effects, they would come see someone like you so that they could make the adjustments to their diet and lifestyle to live a better life and become a healthier person.
That's exactly right. And you say it very nicely, but it takes a lot of concerted effort. And people, I could tell by the time somebody walks into my office, they've looked for me, a nutritionist, and came in to see me. They're committed to some degree, and you have to be, because changing what we eat is changing you a few times a day, and it's not easy. And you have to be willing to make that change, as well as realize, and they don't want to, and because they're making big changes and it really is impactful, they need and want guidance. And the guidance that I give has been, extremely helpful in many cases. And yes, you can make those changes. People don't want to make that big commitment and not have, I tell them, I'm not wearing it now, my white coat. I say, you want the white coat to tell you what to do, because they're going to make that commitment, but they want to know, is this worth it? So we lay out a plan, we do some testing. We also, look, we make it very palatable. Again, no pun intended. But unless the patient likes it, and that's where a lot of experience comes in, knowing what an array of foods that fits the bill to make a person's daily intake, at least that they can look forward to it, that takes some doing, and that's what we do. And then we teach them along the way. We will tell them why they're eating this. It's kind of like, patient 101 nutrition, whoever that is. And I say to probably every single patient, by the time you leave here, I want you to say, I got this, not what did she say? And that's my goal.
That's awesome. And so taking that one step further away from just making your everyday life better, if you suffer through any of these conditions, if you're not suffering and you just want to make your immune system a powerhouse, because that is the best defense against getting sick, how are you helping people with those changes?
Well, for the purpose of our video and in general, people are looking for it out there. I'll tell you, because I have vitamin dispensaries, and when I'm putting together formulas for people, and I look to, a lot of people need a certain type of immune booster and so forth. Boy, I have even a hard time getting my hands on it this time of year, and lately especially. So with that said, I'm going to kind of go through a vitamin perspective, a supplement perspective, and I'm going to hit those. Okay, I'm going to hit modulating, and then what you might look for in a formulation, a supplement to buy. And then, okay, but let me start off by saying this. We're going to be we're going to be inside. A lot of people I know are changing their diets, and a lot of people are taking that time just to cook or to make more homemade stuff. But don't get stuck in the trap of, well, I haven't made my grandmother's chocolate chip cookies in 2 years. I'm going to whip up a batch. I don't mean to begrudge your grandmother, but we could totally change our perspective and say, you know what, as I cook and shop, and for my kids and for my family and for me, I'm going to just turn over a new leaf, and I'm going to stick to nutritious stuff that really isn't going to add to weight gain, isn't going to add to inflammation, isn't going to add to the types of chronic diseases that I had mentioned before. And it's not easy. But look, what usually happens? You either go one way and it's like, oh, I'm going to cook and I'm going to bake, and it goes one way and it gets really out of hand. Or you can tighten down and you can go the other way. So I suggest the other way.
Yeah.
So with that, right? I mean, that's
I
really
had that
true.
moment myself the other night. I knew I was making chicken. Am I making chicken marsala? Am I making chicken with coconut curry? Or am I going to make grilled chicken and healthy vegetables? And I did go with the chicken and the vegetables, and I took a picture of my vegetables in the pan. I was like, oh, look at all these immune boosters. But it is a decision. Like, you have to make that choice, and you want to go to the comfort food, but let's all be smarter about it and eat what's better for us.
I think too, mentally, it really does. It's that gut-mind connection. And that means a couple of things, but we can speak about it in the way that if our gut isn't happy, we get that oh, I don't feel like doing anything. Oh, give me the clicker. We don't want to do that. You know, it's like, well, I'm going to get out for that walk. I'm going to take the dog for another walk. And the gym, I think some people's gyms, maybe they can get there. Maybe they bought stuff for themselves. You know, we got to stay motivated. And I know this sounds a little weird. Food and motivation, yeah, it's together. It really, really, really is. And, you know, I send my patients off when I first start off with them. And I say to them with a little smile on my face, I say, so we're going to eat differently. And I know this sounds very different. And yeah, that doesn't, you know, and it's not necessarily there's not a lot of volume of food, it's just different. And they're like, how am I going to feel? And I just say, you're going to tell me. And, you know, dollars to donuts, I get people, and they get themselves, quite honestly, feeling better because they've made those changes. And they're astonished what they didn't eat, the changes, and it just made them feel better and sleep better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And then when
So
you
it's a
go and you
biggie.
take a few bites of that stuff that you thought you liked, then you're like, oh, I don't feel so good.
Exactly. It's really a change. It really is. The biggest change, and it's not foreign food. It's not nothing you haven't, you know, it's just the way you eat it, when you eat it, and how much you eat. So some people are very surprised when I tell them that they can have. It's just that it needs, just like anything else we did in life, and I say this a lot, that certification you got, that class that you went to, you had to drive yourself there, you had to go pick up books, you had to study a little bit, you had to make a concerted effort to finish it and to give it some time, and then you got out of it and you're a better person for it. So I kind of, you know, equate it to that. Give it some time, give it some effort, and just stick to it, because I was saying before, the food may not be that different. And they're surprised about the changes are sometimes, you know, not that severe, but it's the consistency of keeping to it. And that's where we fall into trouble. So, but let me jump on to the immunity. And okay, and we read from my notes. I did do a few notes, and at the beginning I said that there's a foundational immunity that I want to talk about, or what we call a modulating immunity. And what it means is just gathering and making sure your immune system is in the right place on a basic on a the basis of your immune status, so that you can fight off whatever it is, especially viruses. So with that said, I'm going to just go through and tell you what it is that they're very concerned about, that we're up to par with. I'm going to start with vitamin D. And the reason I do blood work on most all my patients. What do you think is, I could wager this, that their vitamin D is going to be very deficient. We live in the Northeast, and a lot of my patients think that they put suntan lotion on, they go out in the summer and they're fine. This is not true. It only helps a little bit because it boosts it up a little bit, but you've got to get the D. So also vitamin A. Many of us are, I don't test for it, but when we do, also a lot of patients need more A invariably, very often. And zinc. Zinc has been the darling of this. There's been a lot of testing going on, and zinc has been something that we're finding is really helping. And it always has. I mean, when you zinc lozenges, remember those? It was like, and like your what we called a natural antibiotic was zinc combination Bs. So let's talk about that, and let's remember that. So your natural antibiotic is a combination of some good Bs and some zinc. And let me just tell you right here and now, so you know, a daily intake that would help boost your immune system would be a minimum of 15 milligrams, okay? And if you go buy something and it's 20 milligrams, that's fine too, okay? But you want to have a minimum of 15 milligrams of zinc, okay?
So let me stop you for just a second. So vitamin D, we can get it from the sun, but we can also take a supplement.
Absolutely.
Vitamin A, what are some good foods to eat for that? Zinc, I'm like, yay, oysters, let's have some oysters. But what are some other foods with?
So for vitamin A, you absolutely want to go to something that is going to make us all maybe kind of go woo, especially people of a certain age. But the most impactful food is cod liver oil. So
Okay.
yes, cod liver oil has a ton of A in it,
Oh.
okay? And you can get supplements that, you know, so for A, and then it's in things like bright colored food like vegetables, okay? the thing is, what I tell my patients as well, if I'm trying to balance somebody out, I want you to eat those good foods anyway that have things like A and all the other vitamins in them. But if we're going to try to hit goals because we're trying to accomplish an objective, I want to see supplements. So don't be afraid of that. Okay. So yes, and you can even cod liver oil, I think it's something like only 2 teaspoons really knocks it out of the park. So, and that actually, I used to have it in my refrigerator. I actually finished it. So that's for A, D, and I didn't mention C. C is something that good old vitamin C. It is absolutely something that it's going to help us in our inflammatory issues. And the rest of these, there's many, many reasons that I could go into. And I'm going to give you little smidgets here of what the objective is. But C, good old vitamin C at 2,000 a day, 2,000 milligrams a day, and you can keep track of it. There's so many trackers online that will, on certain pages, if you flip the pages, will go and tell you what the vitamin intake is. I love that. And if you want to see what you're getting in your food and then turn over and say, well, I'll supplement with 1,000 because I'm getting 1,000, which would, I have to say, be very hard to get 1,000 of C unless you're really eating fruits and vegetables. And it's a challenge. So again, to meet an objective, you really want to employ some supplements, okay? So let me go back to those. It's A, D, C, and zinc. And let me just give you a little bit of background on the D. You'll see them out there. There's 10,000 IUs is how fat soluble vitamins are measured in IUs, international units. The 10,000 would be fine to take. I just contend that after you do it for 2 months or so, and it depends on where you start, you shouldn't start unless you have a baseline, you've had blood work, okay? And then you'd have to estimate, this might be better off with the help of a nutritionist or a physician. And then I would take it and test again. So you do want to kind of track this, okay? The other thing that we're looking at for that foundational immunity is omega-3 fatty acids, okay? Now, I'm going to jump into the highest amount per serving is found in chia seeds. Only 1 ounce, 2 tablespoons provides approximately 5,000 milligrams. It's amazing. Followed by walnuts and flax seeds. Mackerel and salmon are the highest fish, followed by smaller varieties like caviar and sardines. Interestingly, you can obtain a whole RDA, the registered dietary, the required dietary amount for 1 day of omegas, which is 3 to 4 grams in fish or in some of the things I said, which is very unique because not many vitamins out there can you get the whole day's worth and be assured of that by eating 1 meal of it or 1 serving. So omega-3 fatty acids, oh my gosh, salmon, forget about it. So I had mentioned them in order, and that's really unique about this. And as much as some of us out there, we eat our fish and we love it, we're still not getting enough omega-3 fatty acids. Now, I know everybody's like, well, what's enough? It would be hard to say. And we do those types of testing in our office, baselines of omega-3 fatty acids and everything I'm going to talk about. Let's go to the next thing. The next thing is something that you get from, I'm going to say it, and we don't get enough of it, but what it is, it's ECGC. It is the most bioactive form of a catechin, and catechins neutralize free radicals. Now, this is the type of thing that keeps us healthy, okay, on a baseline level. The things that have this the most are green tea is the #1. And that's why you hear green tea is so essential. And I can't say enough about green tea. Put it in your browser, go look at it. The studies and the outcomes are really quite amazing for a little cup of tea.
Let me ask you this. So I do like green tea, and I am afraid to drink green tea that has come from China. Is that irrational?
You know, I'm going to agree with you on that. I just as general terms, I try to watch anything I'm doing to and where it's produced. And China, I just try to stay away from. And it's really just because they don't have the same, what it boils down to many things, but they don't have the same FDA requirements, USDA requirements as we do. And it's scary.
That's
yeah.
my concern too. So anyone who's like listening and you want to get your green tea, just make sure you're getting it from a good source.
Exactly. So the other forms that have these, it's your deepest green and your small things. Watercress has this, yes. Also, watercress and tea and parsley and basil even, but we don't eat it like that, but parsley. And I've seen parsley used in formulations. And so it has this ECGC, which is a radical, a free radical. It tames the radicals. So what is it? Toxins, especially from food, come in our body. And they're the kinds of things that can really be almost create havoc, okay? And they kind of package them and take them out. So they almost neutralize, if you will, and they get rid of them. So those kinds of things with the green tea and other deep greens. I mean, just, patients say to me, should I have mungo berry? I go, mangosteen. I say, do you eat like strawberries or blueberries? No, I never eat those. But I go, just eat berries. Just start to eat the stuff that we really tend to skip over, but we know we should eat. So the next one, as many of you might guess, because there's so much. I mean, if you're watching this video, maybe you want to ask, well, what about this and what about this? Many things are good, but these are tried and true for and new. Go ahead.
And anyone who's watching and does have questions, put them in the comments below, and Dr. Julie and I will get back to you.
Absolutely, we will do that. So next, probiotics. Understand why it's so important, okay? As we know, somebody out there, somebody or you've taken some probiotic, you said, geez, my gut feels a little bit better. The reason is because we don't have enough of a lot of stuff, or we've degraded our gut so much, the probiotic needs to kind of burrow in there a bit and kind of find its place. And when the gut, the mucosal lining is not inviting and it's not in the shape it should be in, the probiotics kind of just wither away. That's part of the issue. When we take more, we replenish it, and it helps a lot. That, and our gut feels better. And it's mucosal. If you take your tongue and you rub it on the side of your cheek, that very different type of cell, certainly different than your hand. It goes from here, and it's in very many places. Maybe you're familiar with the fact that we use probiotics for UTIs, okay? For urinary tract infections. Another area where specialized cells need that mucosal balance so that the things don't build up in there that shouldn't be there, the bugs, and create infection. Also, the reason we're putting it in here, big impact on respiratory. On the respiratory tissue. It keeps that tissue as well. And as you can imagine, as you breathe in, when it goes down, the tissue in there is very specialized. And it's these deep caverns, if you will, that get use out of the probiotics to balance and keep them so that they're not harboring, and the tissue works well. It's balanced. Therefore, infection and invaders are going to be daunted. It's going to keep those away. Probiotics. If you haven't done it in a while, just do it. You're not going to feel any different from it, and maybe you will, but it's a protective mechanism. So with that said, those were the major ones that I picked out that people, are really looking for all this, really specialized things. But these are and I get asked a lot about glutathione. Glutathione's great, but if you don't have these core in place, I suggest you do this first. Glutathione's a little bit different. It helps the cell. It helps us on a cellular level, and is wonderful. But I still suggest that we get these under control, or actually up to par. Is really what I mean.
A strong baseline.
Exactly. So, with that said, again, any questions about dosing? I can help a little bit. Also, I do something, and Sharon, what I said to you maybe briefly at one point was, if people want to come into the office for a consult and say that they found me through Natural Awakenings and we do a community at different times, say I have a question, or I have 3 questions, or my kids, come on in, have a consult, they're at no charge. And we do that kind of as a community service because we kind of partnered up with Natural Awakening. So that I invite you to do as well. And we can talk about immunity.
Absolutely.
Let me jump into what somebody might look for in and what's out there in a good um, one formula uh, uh, supplement.
Great.
Okay. All right. So with that said, and I'm going to just name it off really quickly, and then I'll go back over it. So what you're looking for and what you should find, I'm going to give you either or, echinacea or elderberry. Okay. And remember, the foundational ones, I'm not going to really mention them per se, because these are herbs that we're adding that are very specific to and for viral. Okay, they're kind of viral. There are natural viral fighters. Okay, so it's
Now,
echinacea.
sorry. Echinacea, I feel like this audience has probably heard echinacea for a very long
Yes.
time. Elderberry has really come onto the scene in a big way in the last 2 years.
Yeah. Absolutely. So they're I don't know the similarity, but they're two herbs that work really well. Okay, so well. They really I know what they do. And this is what they stimulate the immune system. So they're stimulators, which is great. Okay, elderberry especially, and then I am finding out there, just so you know, a lot of supplements will have both of them. So either or, both is great. Now, the next thing would be mushrooms. Mushrooms are polysaccharides, okay? And they stimulate the immune response from the gut level. Can't say enough about them. So echinacea or elderberry, I want to see those mushrooms in there, okay? And the next thing I want to see in there is garlic. Good old garlic. Garlic has been, look it up. This is another one. Put it in your browser. The amount of research on garlic and inhibition of foreign invaders, especially viral bacterial. I can't say what enough. Okay. The next thing I'd like to see, and you will find, is an olive or oregano component. So that's another thing. They're just these tried and true combinations that they've used for a very, very long time. Okay, garlic, the olive or the oregano. Okay, you might even get both, but you're going to get either or. Echinacea, elderberry, either or, and you might get both. Okay, now some of the other things that you might see as well are arabinogalactans, and again, that's another prebiotic that works on the gut. It's like a probiotic. Actually, it feeds your probiotic. Remember, probiotics are one-celled organism. They're in the gut. And if you could look at them in real time, it looks like Jacques Cousteau's undersea adventure. They have a waviness to them, and they look like the coral down there. It's pretty amazing. And they're like I said, they're anchored into the gut, into the mucosal lining, and their function is to actually, they manufacture B vitamins. They form a coating not to let certain bad things in, and they also help in a bit in digestion. So they need food as well. So if you've heard the term prebiotic and don't know what it is, it's a type of fiber that feeds the probiotic. And these things are so important that they get put in a immune system supplement. So, okay, how about if I top this off with saying to you what I'll give you a go-to supplement, okay? Can we give a shout out to a company?
Yes, please.
Okay, Kyolic is the company.
How do you
Have you
spell
ever
that?
heard of that, Sharon?
No, how do you spell it?
Kyolic. Kyolic, a great company. And the reason I'm giving it to you is I love their immune. It's Kyolic Immune. They have Kyolic respiratory. They have Kyolic, I believe, cardiovascular. So they have different formulas that they've made for different types of conditions. Love their formula. And I got this, like, I formulated this myself, but I looked back and they pretty much have everything. And you know what they started from? Every one of their products has garlic. So they started with garlic. And so, and if somebody wants to call me on that, I'll answer any questions. You can find this, like I said, almost anywhere. And the price point is great. And that's why I picked it out as well. Availability and price point. And when you take it, you're not going to get, like I said, enough C or D any of those things, but you're going to get the very vertical herbs that have been tried and true to support viral, when we want to have viral immunity.
Yeah.
So that's the short and the long of it.
So if somebody wanted to call you, what is the best number to reach you?
Well, I have a couple. My direct patient line is 732-685-3171.
Okay, great. And they can visit your website at
drjuliemonica.com.
excellent. So are there any last thoughts? I love hearing you talk about the garlic and the oregano, because if I feel something coming on, it's like I swallow a clove of garlic, take my oil of oregano pill, drink ginger tea, got my
Wow.
echinacea tea. Yeah, I'm like hardcore.
I didn't know you were such a girl after my own heart.
I do not like being ill. I have too much to do.
That's right. That's right.
But
Well,
are there any last thoughts that you would like to share with our audience? And I encourage everyone, to get in touch with Dr. Julie. She is a wealth of knowledge. Any last thoughts?
thanks. It's kind of from my first thought. It's about keeping ourselves metabolically fit. Okay. So to do that, remember, I'll just kind of go through it. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but it's so important. And that's keeping that cholesterol in line. That's keeping, you want your A1C to be where it should be. Okay. You want your waist measurement to be appropriate. And there's something that we do called the waist hip ratio. And these matter. And I can sum it up for you. And this was my target here when you asked me that. I don't mean to make it sound simplistic, but it kind of is, and that's good. If we watch the scale, your inflammation comes down as the scale goes down. It just happens. You feel more energized. And so many of you listening to this, you've lost some weight and say, yeah, that's right, I feel energized. We want to get back there. Like I said before, usually these things, when the change of our everyday living now is so different. We're either going to do the easy and the fun and the kind of like, well, let's just, let it all go. And we need that sometimes because it makes us, it's the feel good thing. But if you can keep that in check and maybe make an objective for yourself to work on it every day, you can make some changes. And so what I'm saying, if I haven't been clear, is that it would be watching that waistline, because the thing is, you can cook some great food for it. You could say, like you just made that beautiful example of your chicken, and that sounds great. And you can challenge friends, and you can take pictures, and you can load them on into Instagram. You can put it on Twitter. You can make it fun. And listen, there's a lot of delivery services out there. I mean, you guys see them, I see them. I want to call up, except I cook, but I'm grateful to know that they're out there. I will say though, if somebody's going to use them, sometimes they taste good, but they also can overdo the calories and the carbohydrates. So you do have to watch it, even though it's convenient. But you can pick the choices in many of them and make it your own. So my answer to you about my last thoughts are: try to stay on the straight and narrow. It will make us healthier. So many people getting sick, their metabolics, or what they call their comorbidities, are what we're talking about: hypertension, diabetes. And it all comes down to, the scale. It really does. You don't even have to think about it. That's what I said about simplistic. That's what I meant.
Yeah.
Just if you say, well, you know what? And people ask me this all the time. Doc, I lost on Weight Watchers. What do you think? Did you lose? Yeah. Are you doing it now? Yeah, I am. And I came in because I have other questions, but I'm losing X per week. And we measure them out, and they're in their 90 percentile of losing. I tell them, stay on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to do. So if they're going to lose, and we're going to get to a goal, and we're going to employ some healthier stuff along the way, but that's where they're losing weight. It's so important. I will encourage them to stay right there. So that's my final thought.
Well, thank you, Dr. Julie. This was
You're so
So packed full of it, great information. And anyone go down to the description below. I will include Dr. Julie's details, how you can get in touch, how to make an appointment. And thank you so much. And I hope we can do this again soon.
We will. We'll be in touch.
All right, great.
Bye, Sharon.
Bye. Have a wonderful rest of the